Welcome everyone. I'm Ozic, your lead instructor at K-Edu English. With over 30 years of teaching experience, I'm excited to guide you through our practical grammar tense classes. Let me quickly walk you through the table of contents. First, to truly understand why we study tenses, we'll briefly look into human cognition, how we recall past experiences, and how we imagine future events. From there, I'll introduce English's 12 tenses and the time continuum that helps you grasp them. Next, I'll explain why tense recognition is crucial for communication, especially reading comprehension. After that, we'll go step by step through each tense and practical usage, starting with simple tenses, then perfect tenses, continuous tenses, and finally, we'll dig deep into perfect continuous tenses. Afterwards, we'll take a deep dive into certain prepositions and conjunctions that are crucial for choosing the correct tense, the ones people often don't know or confuse, and that show up on exams a lot. Then I'll explain every possible and impossible tense combination when two or more clauses with their own verbs are joined into a single sentence, a must-know for time sequence. These patterns make up more than half of tense questions on standardized tests. Yet most grammar books either skip them or expect you to understand them without a clear explanation. In this lesson, the only place that explains this properly, you'll learn how to master them and instantly improve your test scores, reading comprehension, and writing. We'll explore these topics with plenty of examples, covering vocabulary, pronunciation, stress, linking, and intonation. Later, you'll practice exam-style exercises covering every tense-related question type found on recent official tests. Most examples are solvable with lecture material, although some require applied thinking. Don't worry if you get some wrong. The explanations make everything clear. The practice program is designed to help learners achieve deeper understanding through errors, following the Learning Through Discovery concept discussed in English Myths and Facts clips on my YouTube. To fully internalize the tenses and vocabulary, review is crucial. Don't just read your textbook. Combine speaking and listening practice. That's how you can improve vocabulary, grammar, reading, listening, speaking, and writing all at once. As mentioned in English Myths and Facts, this course uses the interleaving method. So, it might feel unfamiliar at first, but you'll discover it's the most effective way to learn. The class breaks down into 12 parts, including exercises. Related materials will be provided in separate videos. Before we begin, here are some tips. This lesson is different from most you've seen, and as it's the first of the Practical Grammar series, I'll explain the best study methods in detail. Don't obsess over grammar terms. You'll meet lots of unfamiliar words in example sentences. I've left out most definitions on purpose and usually won't explain them. Instead, I'll show their meaning through context, so don't memorize separately. It's actually a waste of time, as you already know. Some examples may be challenging. If so, don't be thrown off. I've included them deliberately. Unless a grammar point is directly relevant, meaning unless it's about tenses here, I'll leave other details out. With repetitive practice, your brain will absorb them naturally, and you might find some Easter eggs hidden in reviews for fun. Vocabulary meaning matters, but pronunciation and stress also demand your attention. You need this not just for conversation, but for test prep too. It's not a waste of time. It'll help you get better faster. Let me stress again, don't memorize word meanings separately. Get familiar with whole sentences. Then the words will stick naturally. Through review and shadowing, you'll make words your own. It's not wasted time, but actually the quickest way, according to my experience. You can download class materials from our homepage, oziicedu.com. Of course, you can follow the lecture even without them. We've spent a long time building lesson content and examples, taking into account test materials and real-life usage frequency. If you'd like to use them elsewhere, please ask us first and credit our site. Most proper names and examples are created and used just for educational purposes and have no link to real-life people or entities. The booklet runs to 54 A4 pages, including exercises. I recommend signing up on the website and printing it out before class. It's validated in real classrooms and includes plenty of up-to-date exam content. If printing is tough, you can split your screen while watching the lecture or use a digital pen. On Windows, the Windows key and arrow keys divide your display. Each device works differently, so check your manual for details. Of course, you can view the class without downloading anything. Grammar is just one tool for communication. Don't ever forget that. Let's get started. First, let's take a look at human cognitive ability. Human memory is a cognitive process where the brain stores past experiences or learned information and retrieves them when needed. There are many types of memory, but here we'll briefly focus on just a few important ones. You don't need to worry about the technical terms here. First, episodic memory. This refers to your ability to remember specific events or personal experiences along with their context, time, place, and emotions. For example, I saw a lion at the zoo yesterday and it was amazing. Or, I rode a bike without training wheels for the first time. I was nervous, but my dad cheered me on. These illustrate the ability to recall episodes, along with the related emotions. Next, semantic memory. This is the ability to remember general facts or knowledge that are not tied to your personal experiences. For instance, there are African animals like lions at the zoo. Or, most people can't ride a bike well at first, and they usually get scared. Unlike episodic memory, this type deals with universal knowledge. Next, procedural memory. This is subconscious memory acquired through repetition and practice. For example, I know how to buy a ticket at the zoo, rent a bike, and find the lion enclosure in the African section. It's hard to explain verbally because it stores the know-how of performing skills and routines automatically, step by step. Next, sensory memory. This stores sensory information, what you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch, in its original form for a very brief moment. For example, when I went to the zoo, the sound of a lion's roar came to mind. Or, when I rode the bike, I could hear the tires touching the ground. It's a system that keeps sensory data briefly, without conscious effort, in its original form. Finally, working memory. This is the mental system that temporarily holds and manipulates information. It helps us think, understand, solve problems, and make decisions. For instance, when I rented the bike and headed for the lion enclosure, I visualized the route I remembered from the map. It's also what we use when we calculate prices while shopping or interpret meaning while reading. Working memory, therefore, plays an essential role in logical thinking, learning ability, problem solving, and decision making. Animals such as crows, chimpanzees, rats, and dolphins are known to have some cognitive abilities similar to humans. However, animals cannot express their memories through language, nor can they recall past information in a systematic, sequential manner or encode abstract concepts. Many studies have proven this, that only humans possess these advanced cognitive abilities. And because of these abilities, all languages develop the past tense. That is, the simplest linguistic device humans invented to organize and express both concrete and abstract information from the past in chronological order is the past tense. Let's look at a few more cognitive abilities. When people say retro style is trending these days, that word retro comes from Latin meaning backward. Humans possess a kind of retrospective memory, a system for recalling past events, people, words, or experiences. It's a comprehensive term that includes the episodic, semantic, and procedural memory types we discussed earlier. In short, it's the technical term for what we usually call memory. The opposite concept is prospective memory. This refers to the ability to remember intended actions or planned tasks that you need to carry out at a specific time in the future. Unlike retrospective memory, which recalls past information, prospective memory lets you remember things that haven't yet happened. For example, as you said, I rented a bike at the zoo, visited the lion enclosure, and then returned the bike. This shows the ability to recall and perform a planned action at the right future moment. There's a related concept called prospective cognition. This means the mental capacity to anticipate upcoming events or situations and to make plans or decisions about them. For instance, before going to the zoo, I mapped out my route and decided to rent a bike so that I could see more animals in a short time. This involves complex mental processes, such as future simulation, hypothetical thinking, goal setting, and forming intentions. While prospective memory deals with remembering a specific future action, prospective cognition is a broader concept that includes that memory but also covers all future-oriented mental processing. In other words, prospective cognition encompasses forward thinking, planning, and problem-solving capabilities. Finally, there's predictive ability, the capacity to anticipate future events or outcomes based on current information. For example, the zoo will probably be crowded this weekend, so I should go early to rent a bike. This can be something as simple as that, or something more scientific, like when meteorologists predict the weather for the next few days, or when people estimate election results. These predictions are based on data, knowledge, and experience, but always involve some degree of uncertainty. The terminology might sound technical, but you get the idea, right? What matters most is that prospective memory, prospective cognition, and predictive ability are uniquely human traits. Some animals, such as monkeys or elephants, might show traces of them, but those abilities are usually very simple and purely survival-driven. More importantly, animals cannot use language to coordinate intentions or goals with others. They cannot imagine or plan abstract, complex ideas flexibly, nor can they organize long-term sequential actions systematically. Only humans can do that. And the simplest linguistic tool we created to express information about future events along a timeline is the future tense. Therefore, the tense system is not just a simple grammatical device. It is a linguistic reflection of our uniquely human ability to perceive time, remember the past, and anticipate the future. This evolutionary development of temporal expression is deeply tied to our cognitive capacity to re-experience past events and imagine future situations. Every language, not only English, created tense distinctions such as past, present, and future to express this cognitive ability. In other words, tense is closely connected to what we might call the human power of mental time travel. In English, there are three main linguistic tools used to express time information. First, tense. Second, the subjunctive mood. And third, sequence of tenses. In this class, we'll focus on one of those three elements, the tense system. First, let's briefly look at how it evolved. In Old English, there were only two tenses, the present tense and the past tense. The future tense didn't originally exist. People used the present tense together with words that implied future meaning. Even today, this pattern survives. For instance, with verbs of motion such as go, come, or leave, where the present tense often expresses a future action. Later, the Norman invasion of England marked the beginning of Middle English, a period that brought major changes to the language. Focusing on tense, the present and past forms remained, but modal verbs began to appear, serving as markers for the developing future tense. Around that same time, the perfect tense also started emerging. Over the following centuries, through wars, migrations, and language contact, English absorbed many external influences. This led to the development of simple, progressive, perfect, and perfect progressive forms, shaping the full 12-tense system we use today. As you can see in this chart, English has 12 distinct tenses, each expressing a different time relationship or aspect. Most of you probably have some familiarity with these categories from your previous grammar studies. However, when we look at actual usage in daily conversation, as explained in English Myths and Facts, the simple tenses dominate real communication. They account for about 90% of all tense usage. The continuous and perfect tenses make up 5% or less, and the perfect continuous is rarely used. Still, because this course is part of our advanced grammar series, and many of you are preparing for official exams, you need to understand all 12 tenses accurately and completely. Before we begin the lecture, I'd like to correct some common misunderstandings you may have about tenses. First, many people believe that the past tense is used only for past events, the present tense only for present actions, and the future tense only for future situations. That's not always true. The name of a tense doesn't necessarily match the exact time of the event. Sometimes the present tense can even be used to talk about the future. Second, some assume that we must always use the modal verb will to express the future. Again, not always. There are many other ways to convey future meaning without using modal verbs. Third, people often think the present continuous tense always describes something happening right now. That's not true either. Although its name is present continuous, it can also be used to express planned or scheduled future actions. Next, there's a common misconception about the past perfect tense or pluperfect tense, that it's used only for events that happened a long time ago. Not true. The pluperfect tense was developed to show the order of two past events. Even if the first action happened only seconds before the other, you can still use this tense. To correct these misunderstandings and to understand tenses most accurately, we need a visual way to represent time relationships. This diagram will help us do that. For convenience, Let's assume time flows from left to right. Borrowing a term from physics, we'll call this diagram the time continuum, the continuous flow of time. Let's try a quick test. Here's a question. Choose just one correct tense for the blank. All four could technically fit, right? That makes it tough. Even Shakespeare or Hemingway couldn't easily decide. However, things change when there are time markers, that is, linguistic signals that indicate time. As shown below, various adverbs, prepositions, or conjunctions act as time markers. They play a major role in expressing or determining the correct tense. In this lecture, we'll use the terms time continuum and time marker frequently. To fully understand not just tenses but also the subjunctive mood and time sequence, you need to become comfortable with these two concepts. So, why is it so important to understand tenses precisely? Grammar is one of the rules that make communication possible, and among all the skills tested to evaluate communication ability, reading comprehension takes the greatest weight. To read effectively, we need several skills. But the most fundamental one is analyzing the 6 elements of information: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Grasping these is essential for understanding the logic of any passage. Every English sentence, by standard grammatical convention, must include one subject and one verb. The subject tells us who performs the action, and the verb tells us what is being done. However, verbs also carry tense information. When we locate a verb on the time continuum, especially when it appears with time markers, it tells us the time, duration, and sequence of an event. Beyond that, verb tenses also convey causal relationships. For instance, when I overslept and I was late appear together, the tenses do more than mark time order. They clarify cause and effect. In every official exam, questions that test your ability to identify such logical relationships appear without exception. Tense choice also reveals the writer's intention. Depending on the tense, the meaning shifts. It shows whether something is a fact or just an opinion, a hypothesis or a prediction, whether it's ongoing or completed, general or specific. Furthermore, tense often determines the genre of the text, whether it's argumentative, explanatory, or narrative. So, the tense directly influences our grasp of the how element in logical analysis. Sometimes, even in multiple-choice reading questions, the tense alone determines which option is correct. Everything else in the answer may look fine, but if the tense doesn't match, it's wrong. Therefore, tense forms the backbone of logical understanding, carrying 4 of the 6 essential information points in reading structure. That's why this advanced grammar course starts with tenses, the foundation of comprehension itself. Our goal here isn't just grammatical understanding, but building stronger and more efficient reading skills as well. We'll explore this in more detail during the reading comprehension lecture. Shall we take a closer look now? If a sentence has only one subject and one verb, what tense will it take? It's most likely to be one of these: present, future, past, pluperfect, past perfect, present perfect, or future perfect. But what happens when there are 2 or more verbs in a sentence? With 12 possible tenses, which combinations are actually allowed and which are not? This is our ultimate goal in this course. Most people misunderstand or only vaguely sense how tense combinations work, but in reality, there is a strict set of rules behind them. These time-structure combinations frequently appear in exams, yet almost no textbook clearly explains the underlying rules. For the first time, those rules will be revealed here, at the end of this lecture series. Before we get there, though, you need to fully understand the unique features of each of the 12 tenses. In this video, we have learned that humans develop tenses as a precise linguistic tool to express our complex perception of time. English, as one of many languages, evolved 12 tenses to do just that. Therefore, tenses are not just grammar. They reflect the human way of thinking about events within time. From tenses, concepts like the subjunctive mood and sequence of tenses also developed. That's why understanding this background is essential, which is exactly why we prepared this separate introduction before diving into the core tense lessons. Starting with the next video, we'll officially begin our in-depth study of English tenses. Thank you for watching.